Hello everybody! In this tutorial we're going to go over strings in Python. A quick definition. A string is a linear sequence of characters, words, or other data. Strings are immutable in Python and cannot be changed in place after they are created. You cannot overwrite the values of immutable objects. String operations produce new strings. And there's something really useful and cool I wanted to tell you about. In many integrated development environments, and possibly in text editors, there's this option where you can type in help and then str, and it will give you a long list of the methods that you can use with strings. So let's show you how to do that. Just type in help, str, hit enter. Let's go back up to the top. You can see it's quite a long list, and it gives you a long list of these string methods that you can use. Okay? And it looks like it's in alphabetical order. And we might come back to this from time to time throughout our tutorial just to show you some of your options, especially if there's things that we don't go over that might be useful. Alright, so one of the best ways to learn about strings is to see some of the things you can do with them and how you can manipulate them. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to go over is the fact that when you create a string, you can use double quotes or single quotes. So let's pull up a print function and type hello in double quotes, and then we'll do it again in single quotes. And when we select this and run it, you'll see you get the same output, regardless of whether you use the double quotes or the single quotes. Next, let's show you how to assign a string to a variable. It's very simple. We just type the variable. No need to put in a type such as string or int or float. That's not necessary in Python, so we'll just type the name of the variable equals, and let's type peanut butter. Let's create another variable, var2, and this variable will be assigned the string and jelly. Okay, so that's a quick, simple, easy way to assign a string to a variable. Next, let's show you how to concatenate two strings together, or you can think of that as just joining them together. So in this case, let's create a third variable, var3, and let's use var1, which was peanut butter, plus var2 and jelly. Use our print, var3, select and run, and you can see we have the var1 and var2 strings concatenated together here to create peanut butter and jelly. Next, let's go over a few things regarding formatting. First, if you want a new line, you can put a backslash in inside your string. Or you can also just create a separate print statement with double quotes. If you'd like a tab before a string, you can use a \t. And in some cases, if you need to put in quotes inside your string, you can use a backslash, or you can just make sure that you use, for example, single quotes around your string and then double quotes for your quotes. And the same thing goes for using an apostrophe. If you want to put an apostrophe in your string, you can use a backslash to make sure that goes in. And let's show you some examples of that, because that might not make complete sense just talking about it. Okay? So let's create a string, and let's just say hello. And let's create another string that says hello. And if we print this out, you can see we get hello, and then on the next line we get hello again. Well, let's say we wanted a blank line in between those two hellos. One way you could do that is just to put a backslash in here and run it, and you can see we get our blank line. Now, another way to do that, as we mentioned, is just to say print and then put in quote, quote. And I think it works with double quotes and single quotes. And you can see we get our blank line. Let's test the single quotes. Okay, yeah, it works the same. So let's say we wanted a tab before this second hello. We could use a \t, just like that, and run it, and you can see we got a tab before our second hello. Now let's say that we wanted to put this first hello in double quotes. So we wanted it to actually print with double quotes around it. Well, as we mentioned, if you're using the single quotes, you can just go ahead and use the double quotes, and this should work. And it does, okay? But if you had double quotes and double quotes, like this, and you tried to print this, you're going to get an error. Now to fix that, you can use that \, character, like this, and just put it before those double quotes that you want to show up, and now it works. Okay? Well, let's show you another example. Let's say that we wanted to use a string, and we wanted to show ownership with an apostrophe, so we wanted to say the car is Brad's. Now you can see right off the bat this probably isn't going to work, and it doesn't. We get an error. Now to fix this, again, you can use that \. Just put that \, in front of that apostrophe like this, and now it works. Next, let's show you another thing that's cool for formatting strings. So let's say that we're going to use a for loop. So we're going to say for I in range. And if there's anything that we cover in this tutorial that you're not familiar with yet, don't worry, we will get to it in our later tutorials in our basics series, okay? So we're going to iterate through a range of 10 numbers, and we just want to print out each number. So let's select this and run it. And remember, the range, unless you specify otherwise, will start at 0 and go up to, but not including 10. So you can see it went starting at 0 up to, but not including 10, so it goes back to 9, 0 through 9. Now let's say that we wanted to print all of these on the same line. Well, one way you can do this is put a comma in your print statement and then type end equals, and then in quotes just put a space. Now when we run this, we should get 0 through 9 on the same line with just one space in between each number. And we do here. Next, let's say that we wanted to test a string and see if it contains another string, or you could say test for a substring. So let's create our variable. Let's just say variable for equals menu for today is pizza and salad. Now we're going to use an if statement. We're going to say if pizza in var4 print pizza is on the menu. Else, so if it's not on the menu, then just print pizza is not on the menu. And let's make this a capital not. Okay. So let's select this and run it. And we can see pizza is on the menu because we're saying if pizza is in this string here, then tell us that it's in the string. Now let's change this to something else. Let's say hot dogs. Now this should return the else part here and say pizza is not on the menu. And it does. Okay, so we're good to go. Next, let's go over some examples using capitalization. So let's create our variable 5, and we'll just say, hello there, how are you? And let's create another variable, var 6, and we'll just say hello, all in caps. Now to capitalize this var 5 string, we can use a print, use our var 5 variable, dot capitalize, and remember to put the parens on that for it to run. Now if we select this and run it, then you can see that it capitalized that string, because at first it started with a lowercase h and now it starts with an uppercase h here. Let's show you a few more examples here. Let's say that we wanted to put var 5 in uppercase. So let's use a print, var 5 upper, select this and run it, and now you can see it prints it out in all uppercase. Now if you want to use a title case, which should just capitalize the first letter of each word, you can do that as well. So let's use var 5 again and type in title, select it and run it, and you can see before var 5 was all lowercase, and now each first letter is capitalized. And one more example on this, use var 5, let's use var 6 on this, and let's say we want to put this all in lowercase. All you have to do is type lower after the variable, dot lower, and now you can see var 6 here, which was all uppercase, is now in lowercase. And let's go back to our helper screen here. Remember before where we typed out the help, in parens we put str. There are many more methods that you can use regarding the capitalization and to manipulate strings and all that good stuff. So remember to check out this helper screen for additional methods to manipulate strings. Okay? Next, let's say that you wanted to count the items in a string. Now one way to do this, let's create a variable, var 7, and create a big long string of different items. So we'll say spam, eggs, toast, spam, coffee, spam, spam, spam. And let's say you wanted to count the occurrences of that tasty meat that we all love, spam, in this string. Let's use a print, and we can use the count method or function. I usually use those terms interchangeably, even though they're not technically the same. But let's use a count, and then we can put in spam in here to tell it what to count. Let's select this and run it, and we get 5. Well, let's double check that. So we get spam 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're good to go. Moving on, let's show you how to use the ends with method. So let's create another variable, var equals run, running, jog, jogging, lift, lifting. So in this case, let's say we just want to address the parts of the string with the ings. So let's just, in this case, try to print out the parts of the string with ing, such as running, jogging, and lifting, and not worry about the run, jog, and lift. So in this case, we're actually going to use the ends with and the split methods that you can use to manipulate strings. So let's create a variable 9, and we're going to turn this string into a list, and then we're going to use our string, and we're going to split it based on the commas. And then we're going to use a loop, so we're going to say for I in that list var9, which uses our var8 string. So it basically takes this string and turns it into an array of individual elements. var9, and then if, while iterating through the list, any of those words end with ing, then we want to print those words, just those words. Let's select this and see if it runs. Okay, it works. So you can see it just prints running, jogging, and lifting. And it doesn't worry about the run, jog, and lift. And that's because, just to do a quick recap, we turned our string into a list or an array. We split it up based on the commas. We used a loop to loop through that new array of elements. And then we said if any of those elements end with ing, print those elements and only those elements. Okay? Next, let's move on to using the find string method. So let's create a new variable, var10. We'll say spam and eggs. Let's use a print, use our var10 string, and we want to find the first A element. Okay? And a quick note on the find, there are additional input parameters that you can use, and those include the start and the stop. We won't use that in this case, but in this case we're just going to use one element, which is the element to find. So let's print this and see what we get. And you can see we get a 2. And at first that might not make sense, but what this is doing is returning the index of the first A character in that string. If you recall that indexes start at 0, so S would be 0, P would be 1, and A would be 2. And that's what that is returning. Index 2 is the first index of the letter A. Okay? Next, let's move on to some examples that will show how to insert things into strings. This is sometimes called string interpolation. So let's go ahead and create 3 variables, var11, var12, var13, and assign values to each of those variables. So we'll assign 10 to var11, 20 to var12, and 10 plus 20 to var13. Now what we want to do is create a string and insert those variables var11, 12, and 13 into the string. So let's pull up a print, and we'll use %d as a placeholder for var11, another %d placeholder for var12, and another %d placeholder for var13. Then we close our quotes, put another %, and then inside parens we want to put our variables, var11, var12, and var13. So this %d and this %d and this %d are placeholders, and these variables here in this tuple will be assigned to each of those placeholders. So var 11 will go here, var 12 will go here, and var 13 will go here. So this should be 10 plus 20 equals 30 when we print it out. Let's select it and try and run it, see what we get. Okay. That is what we wanted. We're good to go. 10 plus 20 is 30. Now that's just one way you can use string interpolation. There's another way to do this that is a little bit more recent or newer, I believe. And let's show you how to do that now. So let's create another variable, var 14, and let's just assign pi 3.141593. Create another print, and we'll say pi to 4 digits is, and here is our placeholder, curly brackets. Let's go ahead and close our single quotes. Use a dot to access format, and in here we'll put in our variable 14. Now if we just print this out now, let's go ahead and show you what we get. We're not done yet, but let's show you what we get. So we get pi to 4 digits is 3.1415, and we want it to stop there, but it includes the 93. So to fix that, inside this placeholder, we can use a syntax to limit the number of decimal places, and that would be a colon, and then we're going to say 0.2f, and you can think of the f as a float or a decimal. And we said 4 places, so we actually don't want 2, we want 4. And this should print pi to 3.1415. Let's go ahead and select this and run it. Now we have pi to 4 digits, and it actually rounds. That should be okay for this example. Pi to 4 digits is 3.1416. Let's show you another example of string interpolation. And this is going to be using this newer syntax with the curly brackets placeholder instead of the %. And in this case, we want to actually perform a calculation in our format piece of the string. So let's go ahead and create our string, put in our curly brackets to the power of placeholder, close our single quotes dot format, and we want to put in a 2 and a comma and a 4, and then we actually need to finish this because what we want to do is we want to say some number to the power of some number is, we need one more placeholder here, some number, and let's put in 2 to the power of 4. So what's happening here is we have 3 placeholders. Some number to the power of some number is some number, and the corresponding values that will fill those in is a 2 will go here, a 4 will go here, and 2 to the power of 4 will go here. So let's go ahead and print this out. And we get 2 to the power of 4 is 16. Okay? So those are some examples of inserting objects into strings. And as we said, this is sometimes called string interpolation. Next up, let's use the isAlpha method. So in this case, let's create another variable, var 15. And let's say you want to know if your string is all alpha characters. In this case, let's create ABC 1, 2, 3. And this is a bool method, so it should return true or false. Let's go ahead and print var 15 access is alpha. Put the parens on there. Select and run. And since we do have some numbers in here, we have 1, 2, 3, it returns false. Now if we change this, let's take out the numbers and just have ABC, and now let's select it and run it. See what we get. And now it returns true. Next, let's say you want to figure out the count of elements in a string or count of characters. So here we have a variable with the alphabet, A through Z. Let's create another variable called alpha length. And we can use the len method or function, put in our alphabet, and let's go ahead and print this and see what we get for a count. And we get 26. And that's what we would expect. There's 26 letters in the alphabet, so we're good to go. Now, one thing to remember on this is I believe this will count all characters. So even if you have a space, it'll probably count that. But let's run it and see. So let's put in 2 spaces. So now this should return 28, but let's run it and see what we get. And it does. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Now, let's figure out how we can count just spaces. So let's create another variable, variable 16, and let's just put in our string what we are going to have for breakfast. Eggs, ham, and toast. Let's create our print to display, put in var 16, and in this case we want to use the count. And what we want to count is spaces. And to indicate the spaces, we can put in a quote, a space, and a quote. So here we have our space. It should just count the spaces in this var 16 string. And we should get 2, because there's 2 spaces here and here, but let's run it and see what we get. And that's what we get, 2 for 2 spaces. Next up, let's figure out a few ways that we could count the number of characters and not include the spaces in that count. So in this first way, let's create a print, and we're going to use our len method to count the number of characters in var 16, eggs, ham, and toast. So we can just put var 16 in here. And let's go ahead and just print this and see what we get. And we get 14. So if we do a quick count, 1, 2, 3, 4, remember it's going to count the spaces as well. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. Now we want to just know the number of characters and not the spaces. So one way you could do this is to subtract the number of spaces. And to do that, let's use our var 16 again, use our count, and count what? We're going to count the spaces, and to indicate the spaces we can just use a single quote space, single quote. So now when we run this, it should return 14 minus 2, which is 12. Let's run it, and that's what we get. Another way to do this would be by using the len and the replace. So let's pull up our print, use len, var 16, replace, and in the replace we're going to put in 2 arguments. We're going to put in what we want to replace and then what we want to replace it with. So in this case we're going to replace the space, and to indicate a space we're going to put in a single quote, space, single quote, and then we want to replace all those spaces with no spaces, so that would just be 2 single quotes right together with no spaces. Now let's go ahead and print this, and again we should get 12, and we do. Good to go. Next up, let's use the split method on a string. So let's say we have a variable titled full name. The name is Peter Parker. And now we're going to create 2 variables to assign each part of that full name to a first name and a last name. So let's put in first name, comma, last name. And that will equal the full name split, so we use the dot to access the split, and it's split using a space here. And again, remember to indicate the space, you just put a comma, space, comma. And now we should be able to print out the first name by itself and the last name by itself. So let's first print out the first name. Select all and run, and we get just Peter. Now let's go ahead and add the last name. And remember, you can put two print statements on the same line if you want. And in order to do that, you just put a semicolon here. Now let's print out the last name, and we should get Peter Parker. Okay. Next up, let's figure out how you could figure out the indices of a string. So in this example, we're going to use our alphabet variable from earlier here. And let's go ahead and get rid of those spaces. And recall that the indices or indexes start at 0. So A would be 0, B would be 1, C would be 2, D would be 3, and so on. And if we print the alphabet, and we want to know what's at index 0, which would be the first letter in the string, that should be A. So let's go ahead and select this and print it out, and that's what we get. Okay? And naturally, the next thing we would do is move on to slices. However, I've done a full tutorial on slices, so if you want to find out more on slices, please feel free to check out that tutorial. So that is it for this tutorial covering strings in Python. We will be doing many more Python tutorials in the near future. Please join us for those, and we'll see you next time.